Modi Simcha. I am Donald T. Ariel, head of the Coin Department of the Israel Antiquities Authority, and I will be speaking about how Antiochus VII inaugurated the Second Temple period Jerusalem Mint. The Seleucid Empire took over the region of Arrowheads in the 2nd century BCE. Antiochus III, in the middle here, was Antiochus the Great, who captured the area from the Ptolemies. His son, Antiochus IV, was Antiochus Harasha of the early Maccabean story, which we will not be discussing here. We're going to focus on the importance of his nephew, Antiochus VII, in creating by default the autonomous region of Judea soon after his death. So a little bit of background. Antiochus VII was in exile in Greece, and in 138 BCE, he came back to this region to unseat a usurper who had taken over the Seleucid Empire. That usurper was located at the time in Dor on the coast, and so he arrived in Arrowheads and came with his army to kick out and kill Tryphon, the usurper. Tryphon, however, escaped by boat and went up north, and Antiochus VII pursued him there. Antiochus VII, however, left his forces here to rampage the Judean countryside and the coast. We have evidence for all of that fighting in these kinds of discoveries that I'll be mentioning very quickly. The military equipment that was found, very special. The siege bullets that are slingshots that were also found, and we'll also be discussing loading amphora handles. And this is all to build up towards the siege itself that Antiochus VII conducted against Jerusalem in 133 BCE. Here are the arrowheads. They have a special symbol on them, beta epsilon, and these are the identifiers of these arrowheads as belonging to Antiochus VII's famous archers who traveled with him and fought in all of his battles. These arrowheads are found mostly in Jerusalem. There is one in Ashdod, and these are also the sling bullets that were found in Jerusalem. Evidence of the siege of Jerusalem, actually sieges, which you'll hear, in 133. When Antiochus VII arrived here in 135 BCE, after killing Tryphon, he set up camp to the northwest of the old city. He needed to be far enough away so he could provision the soldiers, and they attacked from the north, as is often the case in Jerusalem. And the evidence we have of their camp are a number of archaeological sites found in the last decade with amphora evidence, amphora handles, whole amphoras that were the drink, the wine of the Seleucid army. Jews didn't drink this wine, and there's no question this is the evidence of the Seleucid army, and proof of it is that the stamped amphora handles also are dated. The latest stamped amphora handle of all of these handles is dated to the year 133 BCE. That solves the question also of when the siege took place, because there was a disagreement whether it happened already in 135 BC or later. When Antiochus VII began fighting, he picked the northern part of the first wall. That first wall had been built by Simon, John Hyrcanus's father, in 141 BCE. Simon also knew that the the Seleucids would come and try to capture the Judean priesthood and Jerusalem. So this wall was built, but the old wall of the city of David, the original wall, was also fortified by John Hyrcanus. So there were two walls, and in fact, that's how the fighting occurred, and we have evidence for it with the military equipment I showed you before. Here we see that Jerusalem was besieged twice. Once at the David Citadel, and a second time, as you'll see, at the Givati parking lot, which is the city of David. The arrowheads were found there, the sling bullets were found there, ballista stones were found at the David Citadel, and although we can't be sure that the breach of the city wall happened right at the Citadel, it could have happened further to the east, along the northern wall. There's no doubt that the city wall was breached, and as soon as Antiochus's seventh forces entered, they found the southwestern hill, the Jewish quarter and the Armenian quarter, empty, because John Hyrcanus was smart enough to arrange for all the defenders of the city to escape into the city of David, and then Antiochus VII would have to start all over again with his siege. And we have the same arrowheads here, and the same ballista stones, and the city of David was besieged by Antiochus VII, and this brings us up to around 133 in September, October, because John Hyrcanus then proceeded to call for a ceasefire. Greeks used to allow ceasefires during festival times, and it was Sukkot, so Antiochus VII agreed. John Hyrcanus also knew that Antiochus's arch enemy, Mithridates VI of Parthia, had recently died, leaving an heir who was 8 years old. And John Hyrcanus thought that maybe Antiochus VII, knowing that, would want to make short shrift of this battle for Jerusalem and give the Jews good terms as a settlement. And that, in fact, happened. The negotiations began right after Sukkot, and within a few months, Antiochus VII had given into some of John Hyrcanus's conditions, and he rushed off to Antioch to build his army to take on the Parthian Empire. He left John Hyrcanus as the vassal, as the subordinate who would stay in Jerusalem, and John Hyrcanus also apparently had permission to issue coins. Of course, the issuing of coins was not issuing coins of John Hyrcanus's name, issuing coins of Antiochus VII's name. A lot of these coins were found in the Givati parking lot near where the battle was. And this is what I'm going to continue explaining about the coins. 106 coins were found in the Givati parking lot. They are the coins of Antiochus VII, but unusually and unexpectedly, these coins don't have Antiochus VII's portrait on them. There are only 2 coins of all of the Seleucid series that don't have a portrait on them. And this is one. It actually has been known that these coins were struck in Jerusalem, and it wasn't clear until recently that John Hyrcanus actually was the mint master. He was the man in charge of minting the coins. The coins bear the name and the title of Antiochus VII, but clearly the symbols are Jewish-related symbols. They're certainly not offensive to Jews with their sensitivities about the second commandment. So this is the first coin of Antiochus VII minted, the first coin, bronze coin ever minted in Jerusalem. And these coins date to after the siege was over. And they were all found at the Givati parking lot in a glacis, in a fortification area next to the fortification wall found there beginning in 2012. They're minted in Jerusalem, as I said, and here's the timeline that describes how these coins fit into the story I just shared with you. Antiochus VII arriving in 138, coming back to Judea in 135, the same year that Simon had been murdered, and John Hyrcanus, his son, became high priest. But very soon, Antiochus VII began the siege of Jerusalem in around 133. But when the siege was over, and it didn't last very long, because his forces certainly outnumbered the Hasmonean forces. In 132, Antiochus was already gone. John Hyrcanus minted these Jewish-looking coins, these coins without images, for 2 years, 132/1 and 131/0. And he did not continue minting coins. The answer why is obvious. In 129, in Parthia, Antiochus VII died in battle. So John Hyrcanus had the freedom now to implement a more sincere and secure kind of autonomy. John Hyrcanus' father had also created an autonomy in 141 BC, but it was short-lived because John Hyrcanus' father died, was murdered, as I said, in 135. So these coins are coins of Antiochus VII, minted by John Hyrcanus when Antiochus VII was no longer here, and they only were minted for 2 years. Once Antiochus VII died in 129, there was no reason for John Hyrcanus to behave like a vassal. So he started a journey towards creating autonomy for the Jews. I want to say another thing about this coin of the Antiochus VII. The anchor happens to appear in the Maccabees' description of the tombs of the Maccabees in Modi'in, and this relief here is not a picture of the tombs of the Maccabees, but it's very similar. It's from another mausoleum where you see all of the military equipment in the decorations above the mausoleum, just as is described in the book of Maccabees. Here is a second type of coin of Antiochus VII found in the Givati parking lot. They began appearing in 2012, and now we know of 18 such coins. They're not as common as the other lily anchor coins, but they are certainly minted in Jerusalem. How do we know? Well, first of all, we have the second coin of the Seleucids ever minted without the profile portrait of the king. Instead of a portrait, we find a helmet. Okay. That's an appropriate kind of image to replace the portrait, and is not offensive according to the second commandment. Okay. On the other side of the coin, we have another symbol which is not offensive. It's a decorative element from the edge of a boat called an aflastone, the finial of the stern of a boat. And this coin we shall see is also of interest to us. But the reason why this is a new discovery is because this coin had originally been attributed to the city of Ashkelon. Ashkelon was what the original choice for associating with this coin, because there is a symbol of a boat, a part of a boat on the coin. So one would think Jerusalem would never have minted a symbol of a boat. There is no water there. So it took quite a while for this attribution to be corrected, and it was corrected mostly because of the provenanced coins, the coins where we know where they're from, of this type. When we collect all of the provenanced coins of the helmet aphlastone type, we get to 24, and 19 of them were issued in the area of Jerusalem, not only in the Givati parking lot. There's one at Binyanei Ha'umah. There's another one at the Wolfson Center, an excavation from years ago. So we know, based on the distribution of these coins, that Ashkelon is not the appropriate attribution for the mint, and that the mint attribution should be Jerusalem, especially because there is no human imagery or a pagan imagery on the coins. Another reason this coin is so special is because it has always been known that John Hyrcanus's first coin, I'm not talking about John Hyrcanus minting under the tutelage of Antiochus VII, but John Hyrcanus, when he was autonomous minting a coin, he used the same symbol. In other words, this symbol was issued around 130 BC, but this symbol is when John Hyrcanus was fully autonomous, around 120 BCE. So that gives us, for the first time, a prototype for the already known rare John Hyrcanus coin with the helmet and the double cornucopias. The Antiochus VII coin of the Mint of Jerusalem, issued by John Hyrcanus as mint master, is now the prototype for this coin, and the pieces start falling into place. John Hyrcanus's autonomous coin has double cornucopias, but has a very nice inscription: Yehochanan HaKohen HaGadol Rosh HaChever HaYudim. John Hyrcanus, high priest, head of the Council of the Jews. This coin shows how important that first announcement of autonomy was. I said it was around 120 BCE, this coin is a very large coin, the largest coin of the Hasmoneans until Mattathias Antigonus, his time much, much later. John Hyrcanus also minted two other coins with the inscription Rosh HaChever HaYudim. And so, in fact, that first series of 120 BC is actually a triple series, three-coin denominational series with the usual Hasmonean symbols, the cornucopias, the lily, and the palm branch. Now let's get back to the aphlastone. Why is this? What kind of symbol is this? It's true, it's not offensive, but is there any other connections we can learn from this type, which now we know was minted in Jerusalem? Well, yes. In the lower right, you see here a victory, a Nike, holding an aphlastone. This is not a Jewish coin, but it's contemporary with these coins. And you see that on this coin and in many other decorated pots, you find the Nike, this victory, holding an aphlastone. What's the symbolism of the aphlastone? It's not only a maritime symbol. The symbol of the aphlastone is a symbol of victory. When a ship battle took place, the winner would break off this wooden piece of aphlastone from the edge of the ship and bring it home and show everyone, here, I won a victory on land. I can't show you the victory because it happened in the sea, but I have this evidence of it in my hand. And this is what the Jews and John Hyrcanus as mint master chose as one of the symbols that he wanted to ascribe used in the Jerusalem mint in the name of Antiochus VII. For him, it was a distilled symbol of victory, a symbol of victory without the image of the Nike on it, something that the Jews could live with. That brings us to the end of the story of Antiochus VII, I would say that Antiochus VII got short shrift. His role, although he was not pro-Jewish or anything, his role of besieging Jerusalem and then running off and creating this new mint and then dying conveniently a few years later enabled the Jews under John Hyrcanus, the nephew of the Maccabean brothers, to create the autonomy that the Maccabees, the older generation, didn't quite succeed in creating because the Seleucids still had a bit of power. At this point, after Antiochus VII died, the deterioration of the Seleucid Empire continued at a fast pace, and the Hasmonean autonomy continued, and then it became under John Hyrcanus's son, Yehuda Aristobulus, and his other son, Alexander Jannaeus, became not a high priesthood, but a monarchy when Hyrcanus's sons took the crown and created the Hasmonean kingdom. This image, as our last image, is something that explains how we know about all of this story of Antiochus VII. The book of Maccabees does not tell us about the events of the siege. The only place we find it in a comprehensive way is in Josephus. Josephus did not paraphrase it from Maccabees, although all of the other things that happened during the Maccabean revolt were paraphrased from the book of Maccabees. He got the sources of this information from historians of the time. They told their story from their own points of view, and Josephus had to embellish a few things, which is fine. But what's interesting is that the sources, not only did they feed Josephus in the 1st century CE, but those sources continued to be quoted all the way into the 5th century CE. And we have evidence of that in works in Greek from the 5th century. And in fact, here in the Galilee, a few years ago, a mosaic was found in the synagogue of Hukok, and the latest opinion about this scene in the mosaic from the 5th century CE is that we have here the guy on the left is John Hyrcanus, the high priest, and that guy in the military outfit is Antiochus VII. And so that the literary evidence shows that the people were still talking about this famous siege, the only siege of a Seleucid king in Jerusalem. And in fact, the Jews also remembered it because they put a scene of this event on their synagogue mosaic. Thank you very much.